Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Let's go ahead and see what we're tracking here for today as we're going to answer the question of whether we're going to see a pattern shift coming our way to kind of get us rid of the deep freeze, which is impacting a lot of the country. We're going to also talk about California, specifically Southern California, to see if they're going to finally get some rain in the buckets down there to kind of help the firefighting efforts in that region. And then we're going to see if there's any big winter storm in the offing. We're going to look at the long range models and see if there's anything out there brewing that you need to be aware of. Now, before we get going, first I do want to thank the new subscribers here to the channel. And if you're that 60% out there who have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so at this time. It'd be an honor and a privilege to be one of your weather sources out there in the YouTube universe. All right, let's go and check out what's going on this morning. Of course, the big news story yesterday was that big southern winter storm. Almost a foot of snow in New Orleans, Pensacola getting over 5-6 inches of snow, and that tracking off the eastern seaboard here for this morning. So good riddance, getting on out of here. Do have some snows here in the middle of the country to deal with that Arctic cold and a kind of reinforcing shot that's kind of coming down here across the middle of the country. Out on the west coast, still kind of quiet. Got a few more clouds down here in Southern California. The winds were back up yesterday, but the main threat won't come until this upcoming weekend, where yes, we could see some rains down here. I'll show you the latest model data on that, and we'll probably see the rains returning eventually into the Pacific Northwest as well as we look at the forecast period. So looking at our current watches and warnings, a lot of this will be going away obviously for today, as this is the worst of this has moved on out to sea. The rest of the country not looking too bad, but again, we got those red flag warnings out here in Southern California until they can get some rain up that way, and you can see a couple of pockets of these freeze warnings that are up here across the deep south. All right, let's go ahead and look at our current surface map. Again, here's our storm system exiting. We got some morning snows here along the Carolina coast they're dealing with, and some snows in the middle of the country with bitterly cold temperatures here across the east. It's definitely warmer up here. Look at this, 28 degrees up there in North Dakota, but it's 17 down in Atlanta. It is 5 in Nashville, so it's colder in the southeast than it is up in the high plains right now for today. Look at that. Here's a minus 13 up here in New York. So very, very cold to say the least. Let's go and take a look at some of the snow that's falling here this morning here in the Davenport area. Going to be a snowy commute for the folks going into work for this morning. So just again, just if you get in this part of the country, just make sure you take it easy. And again, just a quick little dusting of snow with that cold air that's currently in the region. Let's go and take a look at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center. It looks like it's going to be pretty quiet here across a big part of the country here over the next 3 days. In fact, I do not have any thunderstorm outlook to have to deal with here in the short term going in for your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And along with that, we don't have any heavy rains to deal with. So as far as the severe outlook is concerned, it's going to stay quiet. Now, as far as the hazard outlook is concerned, just a couple things to highlight here I want to point out is the fact that we do have some higher winds out here in the west. Of course, down in Southern California, that's the one place we don't want to see that. We will see a return of some heavier rains here going into this upcoming weekend. And obviously, we still have the deep freeze cold here for the next few days here across the southeast. So we're going to first start off by taking a look at the short-range model. We're looking at the high-resolution model here over the next 40 hours or so to kind of see what's going on. Obviously, we're going to say goodbye to this system as this thing is heading on out to sea. The big story we're going to be tracking here is the fact that we're not going to see the cold really change all that much. So I want you to kind of watch this line right here. This is what we call the 540 freezing line. And look how much of the country is just in the ice box out there. It is very, very, very cold here across a big part of the country. So as I go and take you through this, the only thing we're going to be tracking here is, again, we got these little disturbances. I'll be riding some snows there across the Great Lakes. You notice a couple of pockets of snow. So you got the snows here. You got some snows out here as well. But again, nothing overly organized. It's just some cold air and some snowy conditions there across the Great Lakes, and really doesn't change that much. Notice that blue line is really not moving. In fact, it's just kind of staying well far south. So by the time we head into our midnight, going Thursday into Friday, really hasn't changed much. Notice that maybe a little bit further south there, going in through Texas. But again, it is just plenty COLD. It is plenty cold here across a big part of the country here as we get ready to wrap up this current work week. So let's go ahead and look at the jet stream pattern. Now, again, that jet stream is what drives our weather conditions, and its configuration really dictates how the weather's going to be. When you see it highly amplified, when it's going up and down, big ridges and troughs, that's typically where you get your big storm systems. That's typically where you get your cold shots and things like that. So let's go ahead and see what's going to be going on. The one feature I do want to go ahead and point out here is what we're going to see coming into this upcoming weekend. All right, going into Friday, you're going to notice this little dip here out here on the West Coast. It's going to pinch off an upper level low that's going to come into the areas of California. So answering that question of, will Southern California see some rain? I think so. It may not be a lot, but it will be bringing in some colder temperatures and will be bringing in some rain. So this thing pinches off and comes in right into Southern California going into this upcoming weekend. So you notice it kind of hanging out there going into early next week. So it sneaks through California there, and that'll bring some precipitation there, much needed, although not a ton of it, but it's better than nothing, okay? It's definitely something to be looking at there. Now, it looks like we're going to see another little shot of some cold air coming down here as we head toward the end of the week, end of the month, I should say, heading in toward the 30th there. So we got a little cold plunge coming in there. There's that upper level disturbance that's going to kick out here, probably bring some more rains into the south as we go in toward the 1st and 2nd of the month. And that kicks on out to the west. And it looks like the pattern generally stays fairly not bad, but not seeing any big, really big major dips in that jet stream where it's really kind of spinning up some big storm systems. In fact, by the end of this, we're still kind of looking at a fairly zonal flow. Still got a little bit of that Arctic tap here kind of coming in here. So looks like we're going to see temperatures maybe going briefly mild and then kind of going cold again going into later in the month of February. So that's how it's currently looking on the European long range. Now let's go ahead and talk about obviously the precipitation mode here as we say goodbye to that system there across the south. Good riddance, goodbye, good riddance for that. And again, this week is going to be fairly quiet. We're just looking at plain old cold here. Obviously, by the time we get into Friday, I mean, you got that freezing line. You're way down here toward the south, fairly mild out here in the west, but no big storm systems here as you wrap up the rest of this current work week. And then as we go into this upcoming weekend, that's when we'll see things begin to change. Here comes that upper level feature starting to pinch off here across California. So here comes the rain. Here comes some snows out there in the Sierra Nevada. And then we'll see some rains also start to kick up out here across portions of Texas as well as we head into your Sunday. So this is for your Sunday morning going in toward the 26th. Let's go ahead and take this on out here again. We'll see how this thing progresses here as that low kind of lingers across the southwest. And really no big storm systems. You got a little weak system here coming here across the Canadian line there with the United States, seeing a couple snows there, stretching from Minnesota back over into New York State, going into Wednesday of next week. And that pretty much takes you out for the next 7 days. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look beyond the 7 day. We're going to go 7 days out to the end of this model run and see what it's kind of showing there. We're kind of see what the model trends are at this point, because anything beyond 7 days, you're kind of extrapolating like that. I always say that weather's like a set of dominoes, and if a domino don't fall, the rest of it's going to change as well. But we're going to kind of see what the trend is here. It looks like we got a nice little rainy system here as we go into our next week, going into Wednesday here across the deep south, as that what's left of that upper level energy kind of kicks out some moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico there as we go in toward the 30th, all right? So that pulls on out, and that'll cool the temperatures there briefly across New England. We do see our old friend, a little piece of the polar vortex up here once again, so it looks like we'll get a cold shot here across the northeast, but staying relatively mild out in the west. And we do have some storm systems now finally coming in out on the west coast as we head toward the 31st, wrapping up the month of January. So progressing into the month of February, let's see what it kind of has in store for us here, as it looks like we're going to see a fairly seasonal pattern. Looks like another little chunk of cold air here across the north here coming down once again into the United States. That's definitely been the pattern. The polar vortex has been weak. That means the polar jet stream is just not locking in place. And what's been going on for the last month, it's been kind of wobbling and doing these big loop-to-loops and kind of dropping down into the United States. And it looks like that trend's continuing right now as we go into February. So we do have this another little weather system here, bringing some snows here on, say, the 3rd and 4th here across the Rockies. And this is going to track out here across the areas of the Tennessee River Valley as we go in toward, say, it looks like Tuesday and Wednesday, going into the 4th and 5th. Again, this is a long-range projection, but we'll keep an eye on that, see if that's a trend there. And then it moves on out to sea. But it looks like, we got the cold line here pretty far south, not too bad there, but it looks like the colder weather trend will come back in. So it looks like we see a brief warm-up, and then we see kind of getting back to either seasonal or below normal temperatures there as we go deeper into the month of February. Let's go ahead and look at your precipitation totals here. We'll first focus on the first 72 hours. Look at the first 3 days here, and I'll stop it here at 72. Pretty close to there. So obviously this is what's left over of our winter storm. We got some Great Lakes snows here and some snows out here in the Intermountain region over the next 3 days, but most of the country is pretty quiet. Then we'll go out for the next 10, and we'll keep an eye on Southern California, see if they get any decent rains that come out of this. We'll go out to 240. We'll take it out to the 10-day outlook here. And yes, we're getting some rains out here. Again, not a ton of it, but any kind of rain relief is a big help, especially for the firefighting efforts out into Southern California. Obviously, we're getting some more rain. We got that West Coast system coming on there, and then we got a couple of weaker systems here across the Deep South. And it looks like the Great Lakes machines with those little weaker systems right in the Canadian border still bringing some snows up there into the northeast. In fact, I was talking about snows. Let's talk about snow totals. Let's go ahead and look at this over the next 72 hours. Again, a lot of that in the southeast is pretty much finished on out as that system has moved on out to sea. So we don't have to worry about this. This is pretty much wrapped up. This is the last of that winter storm. Again, lake effect snows here. Another weak system out here riding into the Rockies, bringing some snows there over the next 3 days. And then finally, let's go out to 10 days. We'll go out to 10 days. Take a look at this. We'll go out to 240 once again. And we'll stop it right there. And looks like, again, the lake effect machines really starts going again. Start getting some snows down here in California into the southwest, and with that upper level low driving in down there. And obviously with that west coast system coming in, we'll get some heavier snows up there in the Cascade Mountains up there into Washington State as we head toward the 31st, wrapping up the month of January. Now go ahead and looking at our Wednesday, we're definitely starting things off here with our temperature anomaly map showing us very much in the deep freeze, slightly above average here across the high plains, and a little bit chilly out here in the west as well for your Wednesday. So we're going to see if we're going to see any big changes here as far as the temperatures are concerned. We definitely see another shot coming down here later in the week, so staying chilly into your Thursday as well across a big part of the country. And then as we go in toward next week, I think that's when we're going to see a bit of a change, at least briefly, across a lot of the country. So heading into this weekend, we're still looking at chilly weather here across the southeast with below normal temperatures. Definitely seeing below average there across portions of the west as we go in towards your Sunday. And I think as we go toward next week, that's when we'll begin to see some changes here across a big part of the country. We'll see a little more red on this map, that's for sure, as we head toward your Wednesday. So look how much of the country here by the middle of the week here is now showing with above normal temperatures, especially up here in the high plains. I'll call it seasonable out here in the west. But this little brief change is going to be temporary because it looks like the trend as we go deeper into the month of going into February, it's going to show the warm up going away. So this is late in the day on Wednesday. And then as we go in toward Friday, we do have a cold shot coming down. So we do have colder temperatures here in the east, still fairly mild here across the high plains and the Intermountain region going in toward the 31st. And then as we dive deeper into the month of February, we do have it briefly warmer there going in toward the 2nd. You can see how much of the country here is mild, but we have this cold air back up here that's going to work its way back down again. That's one of that part of that colder vortex kind of dives down once again. And look how much of the country going in toward the 4th and 5th. Yeah, we're looking plenty cold once again across a big part of the country, except maybe the southwest, but bitterly cold up here into Montana, and a big chunk of the eastern 2/3 of the United States looks cold yet once again. So it's going to be kind of an up and down thing, a roller coaster thing with the temperatures here over the next couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up and look at your climate outlook here, and we'll see what it's showing here over the next 6 to 10 days. Again, a little bit above average here in the high plains. We're going to cool things down here in the west. Obviously, we got that upper level low coming down, so they'll bring a little bit of precipitation down here. Not a lot of it, but we'll take it. And below normal into the northeast, a little more seasonable across the deep south. Going out further, going out to the 29th through the 4th, looking at above normal here in the middle of the country. Now, it'll be interesting to see if this just gets updated later today, especially with indications of another cold shot coming down. So this long-range outlook later today might change a little bit if the models stay consistent with another cold shot coming down. Right now showing colder weather in the northeast and across areas of the northwest and parts of the southwest as well, Southern California and into Arizona. Precipitation-wise, a little more active here across the south, but still below normal precipitation here, going from the 27th to the 31st as we wrap up the month of January. And going out a little bit further, again, we start turning on the Pacific Northwest a little bit there with the northwest flow, but still looking below normal with the precipitation here in the southwest, here across the southeast and back toward Texas above normal precipitation, and a little bit up there into the northeast. So looks like we're saying goodbye to one historic storm. Glad to see that thing get ridden, get by, and get out of here. Unprecedented snow. Some of the videos that I've seen come out of the south has been amazing. I had family in Pensacola, Florida, and they saw a once-in-a-lifetime event. My niece was telling me she had 7 inches of snow in her backyard. Just an amazing, amazing scene, to say the least. So when I teased that storm as an historic storm, I knew it was going to be unusual to see, but boy, I did not expect the amounts that we saw out of this system. All right, that's your update here on your Wednesday. Again, if you're new to the channel and you haven't given me a subscribe, please do so. It'd be a privilege to welcome you on board. It'd be nice to get that counter moving a little bit, okay? All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next update. Till then, y'all be good. Bye-bye.